What's Canarium?
What's a Canarium? Correction.
Is it Canarium or Conarium?
Canarium.
Like,
because a Mancunian.
Oh,
Canarium.
It's Canarium.
We're going into Lovecraft's world. Weird and wonderful and doing all the stuff.
Mindfucks.
Yeah, a little bit. It looks like it's going to be very trippy. It's going to involve the Squidwards and the old gods and all that kind of stuff. So if you're into Lovecraft and puzzle stuff, I think this is going to be for us. It's first person though, so
Ain't for me, mate.
No, you don't really like this kind of stuff, do
No.
you? No, but I do. So I do. I don't think it's going to be jump scary. Maybe psychological horror, mate.
It's going to be weird.
Right, so I'm going to go and check that out and hold me.
No, you're on your own here, mate.
On.
You made your bed. Go lie in it. Mate, what the hell's a Canarium?
A Canarium, mate, is a device, a machine.
Oh, right. Okay.
To tackle into the mind. They take you to a place where Cthulhu lies. Yeah.
I don't understand where the hell that just went.
Oh, you will do.
It's a machine that
If you're
takes you to Cthulhu land.
That bit's important. That's the important bit, is you've got to remember that. We're going to Lovecraft world, baby. Mr. H.P. Lovecraft. H.P. Lovecraft is an author.
Okay.
He's an author. He wrote all about the weird and wonderful world and where all these Cthulhu-type ideas come from with the old gods and inherited guilt and all these kind of things. Anything, and, you know, just going off into the darkness. What lurks in the shadows, my friend, is what lurks there. So, heavily inspired games like Bloodborne is some of the most famous stuff recently. So when you look at those enormous creatures that don't make any sort of logical sense as to how they work, that's the kind of stuff that he came up with. So this Conarium is hugely inspired by Mr. Lovecraft. They have no bones about it. A lovely quote to kick us off from him himself. And that's the base of the whole thing, is you're going on this Lovecraftian journey to seek out old gods. And you're going to be taking on the role. Let me set the setting for you so it kind of makes sense. You're going to wake up in Antarctica. A little bit chilly, but you're alright, got a coat.
How big a coat?
Cozy, mate. Yeah?
Adequate.
Snug. Snug. You're going to wake up in like the weirdest sort of opium den relaxation room ever with a splitting headache and a disco ball machine, a Canarium if you will. On the table.
It goes full circle.
It goes full circle, spinning around, and another device etched into your hand, which is connecting you to the machine, and your memory's gone. So we're gonna the story setting to kick off with is the very kind of usual thing: is you don't know who you are, you don't really know what's going on, and the story unfolds of you trying to figure out what the hell is going on. Right. Where is everybody gone? So that bit's kind of standard stuff, but obviously it's the journey from there to all the places that you go when you have access to essentially the entire universe, which is what this game is about.
Okay.
So from there, you're going to be visiting the desert, you're going to be visiting creepy old houses, you're going to be going into tombs and underground worlds. The basic premise of the story is that scientists have become obsessed with old gods and old ones and all these kind of creatures, and that they have found proof that there are cities buried deep beneath the earth that were around thousands and thousands of years before humanity started up, and in there they're still there, and we're uncovering them. We think we found the location, and we're going
so it's
in.
like an excavation thing.
Yeah, you're essentially kind of mental archaeologists, is a kind of way of putting it, and you're going to delve into these ruins to find out what the old gods was about, and expanding your mind into different parts of the universe.
What's the relevance of this machine?
The machine is what allows you to do that. There's a number of interpretations in the game of what the machine is specifically doing.
Right.
But essentially, the way the game puts it forward is they find a design plan for the machine that was made before humanity came into existence. Okay. And these scientists have managed to construct their version of it and are trying to use it to communicate with the old ones. That's generally the idea. So you're going to go on a very weird and wonderful journey involving submarines and all kinds of crazy nonsense. Oh, really weird.
Super weird.
Oh, weird. Really weird. Really, really weird. But wonderful as well. Not overly spoopy. It kind of comes across like it's a psychological horror game.
Right.
Not really. It's far more of a mystery puzzle game, is what it really is. It has some little, like, you know, uncomfortable nope moments.
Do you have a couple of jump scares in there?
One,
you think?
One that got me. But people thought Outlast 2 was a jump scare game. I don't think it was.
Right.
Right? So maybe I'm a little hardened towards jump scares than that, but but that's about it. It's spoopy, not really. Atmospheric, definitely. It's building atmosphere and tension and taking you through these areas. But scary, no. No, I wouldn't class this as a scary game at all. So the gameplay of the game is actually really simple. As I said, it's a puzzle adventure mystery kind of game is how I'd put it. You're trying to figure out what's going on. That's the aim of the game. And looking at clues. So it's a first-person point of view. You get a very basic inventory, which is going to have things like an ice axe in it to break some ice. But beyond that, nothing much. You have an interact button. That's it.
It's a learn-as-you-go type game.
It's just figure out the puzzle. That's it. Like, you figure out the puzzle, which will continue down this story. The story is the main theme, is figuring out what is going on with the old gods and all that kind of stuff. And the way you get there is by solving puzzles. Some of the puzzles are pretty tricky, though. I've got to be honest.
Really?
Yeah, they are pretty tricky. Some of them were really... thinkers, little noodle scratchers. Not a lot of them, but sometimes we did get stuck a couple of times, even with quite a lot of people watching, trying to figure this stuff out. Because one of the great things about doing games like this is not many people have played it. It's not on the forefront of everybody. So we working it out together. We kind of got through it reasonably quickly. We did get stuck a couple of times. One thing that I really loved about the gameplay though was that once you did solve a puzzle, everything involving that puzzle stopped being interactable. Loved that. Absolutely loved that. Yeah, so when you did get stuck, if you were like, maybe we missed something in this room, and you go back in, you just can't interact with anything anymore. And that's the game telling you, no, you've solved this part of the puzzle. Whatever you've got to do next, it doesn't involve this anymore.
That's such a simple thing to put into a game, and it's worth its weight in gold for
Absolutely, because we had some puzzles that logically had a number of solutions.
Yeah.
So we went through them in the logical order. It was like, okay, well, this kind of indicates something along these lines. Maybe we should go to this room because we think that that has a link to that.
Yep.
But nothing in the room is interactable anymore. So we were like, no, it's nothing to do with that. And you can start eliminating things quickly, which is why you can get through it even if you're stuck. Because eventually you'll just run out of options and find out what you're supposed to be doing, even if the solution is a little outside of the realm of logic. I'm not saying it was super difficult stuff. I'm not. Most people will notice the answer straight away. But on those occasions you always run into a puzzle like the answer doesn't jump out at you, then you figure it out because there's nowhere else to go.
Were there any puzzles that were potentially people are going to have trouble with to the point where they're going to have to guide it, or was it self-explanatory, like elimination process kind of puzzling?
Yes there were. Namely to do... without spoiling it, there's a couple of symbols puzzles.
Right.
Where you've got to interpret messages from one area of the game and then translate that into an image. The clues are all there, though.
Right, okay.
The clues are there.
It's just a little tricky.
If you didn't pick up on it straight away, because it could be a line of dialogue, right? And if you didn't pick up on the line of dialogue that maybe you saw 10 minutes ago, then you're going to be a little bit stuck and then maybe have to go back. Now, backtracking is a part of the game. Like, you will literally run out of things you can do.
Yeah.
So you have to backtrack to set off what is a new trigger, because that trigger didn't exist until you'd went and done that part of the game. I'm not talking about running back a lot. I'm talking like you might be in a series of rooms and being like, okay, I've explored all these rooms thoroughly. What am I supposed to be doing here? Nothing. Nothing seems to be working for me. And then you go back out of those series of rooms and then the trigger will kick in.
Yeah.
So you do have to be wary of that. But luckily the areas aren't too big where you'll be going back for like 2 or 3 minutes. You know when you naturally feel like you've gone too far back?
Yes.
That doesn't happen in this game. That doesn't happen. The areas are contained enough that you don't feel like you went too far back, which is something I've hated in puzzle games. Is if you go back and you've been running for like a minute or so and you're like, I've gone way too far back. Yeah, it can't be this far back. I didn't run into that issue at all. There were definitely a couple of puzzles that I know that if we did work kind of working through it, that would have been a problem for me. Because I would have been like, okay, which symbol is this? Like, I understand the solution, I understand the problem, and understand the question. I'm not sure which of these is the answer though, which is something you got to be bearing in mind. But that's okay. You can get through it, and the clues are there, to be fair. So it's more about going back and being observant.
It sounds, just from what I've got, is just. It sounds to give it too much fluff to say it was a well-designed game, but these
it's not perfect.
These are generalities. Like the two that we've just talked about there is like it limits your backtracking to where you'll know if you've gone too far. Deselectable objective items. Those things are seldom seen in a lot of modern games, but it's just so simple to put in, and I like the fact that it's two things that, I mean, it's like when the moons align to get them both in one game.
Yeah, it's more okay. I don't know if they're from playtesting. Like I say, I don't know in playtesting if the puzzle was a little obscure. If they didn't notice a lot of players were going back a long way. And they instantly were like, okay, we don't want to do this. We want to keep them in this area because that's when they'll find the answer if we keep them in this area. So there's like natural barriers and stuff to prevent you going back too far. Yeah. Which ultimately leads you to like, what's left, right? I've been through everything that seems logical. What is left? Okay, that's what makes sense. All right, and then when you figure it out, it's like, well, of course that was the answer. Which is always the case with any puzzle. I don't want anybody to be so put off it, because once you figure it out, you're like, well, duh. It was right there. That was so obviously what I was supposed to do. It just didn't seem to make sense to me for whatever reason. Because with puzzle games, you always end up going down, your mind gets set on a path.
Expands your mind.
Yeah, once your mind's going down a certain path, you're already 6 steps ahead before you've realised, is step 1 correct? Too late. I'm already fucking 10 down the road and it's not working, and now I'm getting annoyed, which is the way to go. So conclusion to this one is it's relatively short. We finished it in... The game has had a weird system at the end, is it tells you a completion rate. So we did finish it and we got a 70% completion rate. There are some collectibles in there. Don't add too much to the game, just secret areas, things like that, which kind of pad out the world a little bit in terms of setting, but nothing that you'll need to finish the story by any means. And it told us we did it in 3.5 hours. It's potentially because of the nature of the game, because time is a thing in the game.
Right.
But we actually, it totally took us 5.5 hours, because I know what time we started the game and what time I finished it. So I know it took us 5.5.
It said 3.5.
It said it took us 3.5.
Yeah. Weird.
Now, you do jump around a lot. You play a couple of different characters throughout the game. You do different things, and time is a relative factor within the game. So whether or not they're playing on that, that's kind of maybe what I got, because there's no way the game timer should be wrong. Because it clearly was. It's clearly way incorrect. Wow. So that was an interesting twist on the back end of it. But yeah, we got a 70% playthrough. We're just doing a normal way going through it. Some criticisms I have is they absolutely did not go far enough in enough areas. I think some people, because it's actually described as a psychological horror game, they went nowhere near far enough to claim it's a horror game, in my opinion. Like I said, there was one jump scare through the whole thing, which was you're talking like 2 seconds of a jump scare. Other than that, not really. Like, the settings are creepy, sure. Going into an old god tomb. Yeah, it's unsettling. It's not a horror game, though. Especially, and then you have a jump scare but don't have anything like that for the rest of the game. It doesn't really fit. No. I thought if you were going to make it a creepy, scary game, given the source material of Cthulhu's and dark gods and old gods, you could easily do that.
Yeah,
really
dark areas have like a massive, grandiose, like,
you could do some really things. I think the model work definitely needed some work, because obviously the Squidwards, there are squid-like creatures in the game, which are old god style, you know, with the but they looked kind of more funny than a little bit. They looked a little bit like, they didn't look intimidating, which I think they were supposed to be because of the nature of what the creatures were doing, or the creature. But he didn't. He just, you know what I mean? He didn't look intimidating at all. I would love to have pushed further into those areas and taking advantage of this material, because this stuff is really scary. And again, you can look to things like Bloodborne when you start seeing these creatures appear. I don't want to spoil that game either, but you reach a certain point in the game and these things are, you realize that these things are everywhere, and you're like, oh shit, this is some scary stuff. And they didn't really go that far, especially considering you are going into the cities of these creatures. And I would say the ending's a little rough.
I'm not going to spoil this. I got fragments of watching the stream as he was playing it, and I got a feel for the game. And then when the ending cutscene came on, I think there was a trigger from either you saying it or something in the chat, and I saw the clip, and it was like I'd never watched any part of the game. But that kind of fits the Lovecraftian theme. Yeah.
In a way, it does fit the theme, but I think when you...
so strange.
You can be very, very sticking to your source and inspiration, but at the same time, you still got to give... it's still a video game. You still got a player on the other end of this. It's not somebody else's...
imagination.
Well, it sort of is. There's that fine line between they're telling their story and you experiencing your own story.
Yeah.
And the ending of the game is... It's not bad. It's just very odd.
Is there sense to it? Because I couldn't find any.
There is sense to it. Yeah, there is. There is sense to it, because you add... Again, we can't really go too much into it, but it does make sense. It's just not overly satisfying. There are multiple endings to the game, though, so you can try different ones. Yeah, there are multiple endings. I think it depends on the collectibles you pick up.
Yeah.
As I said, we got 70% of the whole game complete, and that was missing like 10 of 20 trophies and a couple of documents.
Yeah.
I think you'll get a different ending for doing that. All I'd say is I would absolutely recommend this game if you love puzzles and you love the Lovecraftian theme and you like a little bit of the weird and wonderful, then you're going to be fine with this one. If you're not into that, they'll probably give it a miss, because
if you like your closure in buckets, maybe stay away.
I mean, there is a closure. There is a closure to it. Like I said, the ending makes sense. It's just very like what the phrase we used was, "What did we just play?" And that's the phrase that came out. And we had fun. I don't want anybody to walk away thinking we didn't enjoy this game. We did. We had fun playing it. And then at the end, we were just like, "What the hell did we just do?" Which I think is the intention. Like that's the intention. It's like what is going on? Like. Because it makes sense, but at the same time, it's like this is just so weird, and I feel like I'm still missing something. I feel like this. I want a bit more to really round it out nicely. But it's a fine ending. It's just it just left you with that like just give it that little touch more to take me right over the edge, right? Yeah, I got a vinegar stroke along the game there. So there you go. That's Canarium, ladies and gents.
Nice. How was that?
It was alright. It was alright. Not the best game ever, by any means, but it was a good start for this little dev company. They were pretty good. They could have gone I was expecting something a bit more, but they got the feel pretty close. They did a decent enough job, and it's not too expensive. So if you like Lovecraft and you like puzzles and stuff, I'd definitely recommend it. If you're not into either of those things a lot, yeah, you could probably skip this one, unfortunately. It was decent enough. It's it's 4 hours of puzzle solving and that kind
From my perspective, I was editing at the time and I had your stream up on the other screen, and I was looking at bits of it, and then the ending came on. I looked at it, it was like one of those Tommy Lee Jones things, mate. I looked at it, saw the ending, had absolutely no context whatsoever what was going on.
It does make sense. It does make sense.
Put my newspaper back up in the way.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow,
so
weird.
a fun little puzzle game. Definitely if you're into the theme, then you'll like it, because it's very... You know what it is? It's macabre.
That's a lovely word.
Yeah, so if you want to check it out a little bit deeper before you maybe buy it, is check the VOD link down below of us playing it through. And if you did like this video, why don't you check out Star Trek Bridge Crew in VR, mate?
The best game ever invented by man.
Yeah, indeed, because we wore helmets and we got to meet the captain, which is very cool.
The captain.
See you later, everybody.
Peace.
I could have imagined what I would have wanted the Star Trek VR game to be. This is it!
Go, Captain.
You well
dickhead. Called you a dickhead.
Eyes on this guy. Try one more time. Here we go. For the team.
Okay,
Here we go. Mike, you weren't even looking, were you?
Start again.
You weren't even looking.
Sorry, Cap.
Fucking hell.
You did say eyes on you.